Hey, hello and welcome to the Parks Public Spaces and Environment Committee of Manhattan Community Board 5. I am Libby Hutton. I am your chair. Let's begin by going around the room and introducing ourselves.
John Harris.
Bernal Vikram.
Michael.
Julia DePel.
And now to our online members.
Andy Yang.
Okay. We have, normally I would begin by confirming quorum, but in the interest of time, we're just going to begin. So we have 3 items on our agenda. Today we have, sorry, let me just find my notes. We are starting with a presentation from Urban Space and 34th Street Partnership for a holiday market at Herald Square. Then we will move into our budget request discussion and then on to assigning environmental topics as we expand the committee's role and go from there. Just a reminder on process, I will first introduce the agenda item, the committee member who is presenting on it, and then open it up to the applicant to discuss. I will then open it up for committee members to ask questions. Only committee members can ask questions at that time. Then I will go to members of the public to ask any questions or make any comments. And then I will open it up for discussion where only members of the committee are allowed to speak, and we move into process. Please direct all questions to the chair. Okay, please direct all comments to the chair. And with that, I will introduce our committee member, Julia Dippel, who has been assigned the Herald Square Holiday Market.
Thanks, Libby. Hi, everyone. Just want to introduce our applicant tonight. We will have someone from Urban Space presenting on the proposed holiday market for Herald Square this year. It will be taking place from November 21st to January 4th with a bit of a phase-in implementation. The 3 plazas it will cover is Herald North, Greeley Square Plaza, and Herald Square Plaza. The plaza where the activations will begin soonest is on November 8th in Herald North Plaza. Key features of this market include a Christmas carousel ride that will be operated by Urban Space with 76 passenger capacity, sold at a $6 ticket per person. There will also be an open air bar pavilion as part of the space, the reserved street space, fire resistant booths as highlighted by the applicant, and new pedestrian count technology that will enable us to have a better understanding of the foot traffic coming into these events. Projected financials really quick, an estimated 1.8 million in revenue, roughly $500,000 in expenses, netting out to a net revenue of about $1.25 million. Again, this is proposed by the 34th Street Partnership in partnership with Urban Space. I give it to Urban Space to present their application. Thank you for coming.
Thanks so much, Julia. So we have, I believe, Evan Shelton, Senior Vice President from Urban Space here with us once again. And I see you too, Eldon Scott and Lauren Walsh, and we have Zach Berezin here from 34th Street Partnership, I believe, to assist with any additional questions, but it's primarily left to Urban Space to present any additional information on the holiday market. I will leave it to you guys to tell us more about it.
Yeah, thanks for having us. And we are here as a follow-up from our June 30th presentation. So we wanted to give some updates on our fireproofing of the kiosks, and then Lauren Walsh, our head of operations, will give some updates on our SOPs and our staff scheduling that we have for the market period. So first and foremost, we're wrapping up construction on all new fireproof kiosks. As we presented back in June, these are built from fireproof materials. First and foremost being a Class A1 material MGO that is going to take place of all wood on these kiosks. This is a fireproof material, non-combustible, et cetera, et cetera. We've also replaced all wood with steel stud and track. This is non-combustible, ASTM A653 rated. So this is replacing all wood and lumber throughout the market. Lastly, in terms of, fireproofing, we will have a covered tent on the block 3536. This is complete with flame certs for roof, walls, and flooring. So I wanted to give those updates just in terms of our fire prevention materials. And I will pass things over to Lauren to give some updates on our staffing, our org chart, and our SOPs.
Did you have any slides or screens that you wanted to share, like a map of the layout?
I do not. We were hoping that this was a follow-up on our fireproof, as was stated. You guys asked us to come back from the June 30th meeting.
But also to present on the holiday market in general.
Sorry, we were under the impression this was for a follow-up for the fire prevention.
Okay, I think that was part of the conversation, but most of it was, that's where the questionnaire that you submitted to the committee was about the actual market itself, which is what our traditional application process is for activations and markets. I mean, if we don't have time, it opens. Hey, Josh. This was what was on the agenda from 34th Street, right? Yeah. I don't know where something maybe got lost in that a little bit, but I think, Myrna, if you wanted to put some of the slides that I shared with you. I think we have some of what you submitted for the questionnaire with just the visuals. Of like how large it is and the hours of operation and the load in and load out and the bar and stuff. I just want to make sure that our understanding was that we were going to go over the fire part too, but then also like the market itself.
Okay. Yeah, apologies for the misunderstanding. I'm happy to speak to the layout and I'm happy to speak to dates and hours of operation as well.
Yeah, I don't want to put you on the spot. That was what our understanding was, which was why we had the questionnaire for it.
I see. Okay.
If that's okay. I don't want to like put you on the spot at all here. If there's anything that we can do on our end to help.
Yeah, no,
easier.
that's fine. I'm happy to pull up the layout. Just give me 2 minutes, please.
Evan, while you pull that up, why don't I go into kind of what we're talking about as far as fire safety during regular operations, if that's okay with everybody?
Oh, no, that'd be great. Thank you so much, Lauren.
All right, awesome. So we have mandated daily safety SOPs, and each of those is to be completed by each vendor every single day, and then double checked and confirmed by a member of the urban space team. Items on this checklist include presence of ABC and K-class fire extinguishers mounted in each cooking booth, fire blankets, exit pathways clear, no open flames, obviously, only approved heaters, electrical, and cooking equipment. And these are all things that our team is going to be checking in on these booths daily with. Each market has a dedicated team of 1 general manager and 2 assistant general managers who are all FO4 certified and have been trained to enforce this SOP daily. They do multiple walkthroughs throughout to make sure that everyone is in compliance. Per the FO4 training, in the case of emergency, the first call is 911. At that point, the on-site team contacts myself and Evan and our security team to loop us in of any situation that's happening within the market. And our teams are trained to direct guests to the nearest exits in the event of emergency to await fire department and police response. We have also mandated that all of our cooking vendors receive this certification as well. So there are a lot of hands on deck in the case of emergency.
Thank you so much for that update. I will leave it to if anyone else has any additional questions.
Can you ask him, did you say something? Does anybody else have any additional?
We're gonna, when we get to questions for that part, for the fire safety part, but I think while we're pulling up slides, if you have any, if the committee has any questions about fire safety, or if you guys have anything else to say on like the fire safety piece of
I have a
things.
bunch of questions about.
Hang on a second.
Time or not?
So I just wanna. Calm down, just wanna make sure that that on the urban space end of things, the fire safety presentation, do you guys have more for us, or?
I was just going to add that I'm not sure that the team told you the extent to which they worked on this really hard. It's kind of a big deal. I think it's probably the first market in the country that might be built of fully fireproof materials like this. And also, Lauren, we brought on since last year, and she has experience in multi-unit hospitality. So it's a much deeper level of experience, and they've been working on this all year. So I just wanted to, congratulate them for all the hard work they're doing and make you understand that this is actually quite a big effort.
Oh, yeah, no, I definitely want to make sure everyone knows that Urban Space has really gone out of their way to make sure that, and been very proactive about making sure that we have all the information about the fire safety materials. I know that you'd asked about the upgrades and who you're bringing on. I imagine Lauren might be one of those people who you brought on with that extensive experience in other large scale events as well, with electrical wiring stuff. That is more technical than I am equipped to speak to. With that, I want to make sure that the committee is able to ask some fire questions. Just while we're at sort of this interlude on the fire portion of it, before we get to the actual holiday market piece. So if any members of the committee have any questions about the fire presentation that we just heard specifically. Okay. Michael Tabak, questions about the fire presentation.
Can I ask another question, other than a question about the fire, I promise you.
Okay.
Okay. Can you explain a little more about the material that the tents are made of? Question number one, and question number two, we'll wait for that answer.
Sure. The material that it's made of is called MGO, specifically Chemrock Light. This is a fireproof material. It's basically a drywall substitute that does not burn. Again, it is fire rated at an ASTM E84. So that's just a fire test that it goes through. It also has a fire rating of 60 minutes through the ASTM E119 test. This material
Don't mean anything to us, but what we're saying is if somehow something should hit the thing, it's not gonna catch. Is that what we're saying?
Yeah, it's interesting. It's not a tent anymore. It's just it's a structure, and this material, you can put a torch on it for 30 minutes and put your hand on the backside, and it's still not warm to the touch.
Not even gonna melt. Cool.
So just to visualize it, it's pretty incredible material.
Are there
You're
any?
starting to use it more.
Josh. Can I go to Bryan Park and see that material today and some of the tents that are, some of the structures that are there?
Yes, you can.
So those are the same that we'll have on 34th Street is what today is in Bryan Park.
No, the structures will not be the same. The material that is in some of the booths at Bryant Park is the same, yes.
Okay, can I ask another question, Ruth?
Yeah.
I said I had two questions.
Yeah. I just want to follow up so that we were talking about the different types, just to make sure we're super clear on like what we like to circulate the notes. For everyone. Everyone's very focused on the safety to make sure that we're very clear on it, that the tent material, which was what the question was about, is going to be different, and that some of the materials will be at 34th Street, and some of the heat proofing will then also go to Bryant Park, but that's a different setup than here. But the question was specifically about the tent. Okay, Michael K. Back,
My
you had a
second
follow-up.
question is about, you say ABC and K-mount fire extinguishers. So I did notice that there were fire extinguishers or a fire extinguisher in the one booth that I inspected at Bryant Park recently. But you're saying that every every business that has a potential fire causing a burner or whatever is gonna have two fire extinguishers? Cause I'm gonna go, oh, is that what they were? So I'm gonna go there and look. And I'm gonna see two fire extinguishers in each booth where there's any kind of fire?
That's correct. Any of the cooking booths, we have required them to have both types of fire extinguishers.
Okay, so if I go there and I see not, I'm gonna call who?
You're going to call me,
Who's me?
Lauren Wash.
Lauren? Wash, W-A-S-H?
That's right.
And your phone number, please, Lauren.
210.
We can't, don't, sorry,
Sure.
we can run that through the office.
Okay, you send that
And any
to-
complaints should then can
Okay.
come through to CB5, it can come through to 311. Mike, we can get you some of that information offline. Thank you, Lauren, for being so very generous. But yeah, more fire questions on the materials, the very extensive safety protocols. For some of us who are joining a little bit late, we have a 911 plan that of who's in charge at any given time. Are there additional questions, Julia?
Just wondering if you can go into what the emergency vehicle access plan is, in the event of a fire. Like that.
Sure. So if we scroll down in this presentation, thank you for whomever's brought this up, to slide 4, 5, and 6, you'll see that there are 15-foot fire lanes adjacent to all of our market blocks. And then at any point where there is a standpipe or a fire hydrant, there will be a gap in entrance into the market for egress.
Thank you.
Okay. Any additional fire questions from the committee? Robin, did you have a question?
I have a question, and it's fire related, but it's not necessarily germane to the this particular presentation, but it's relevant,
To the holiday market?
right?
Okay, let me go to Murnau first and then
Okay.
okay. Murnau, question on holiday market fire safety plan, 34th Street, also other urban space locations.
Okay, so I believe the FDNY had said that they'd had trouble accessing fire hydrants. The last time there was an issue. Have we checked on the accessibility of the fire hydrant to any fire trucks?
I think that, excuse me, I think that was at Bryant Park.
That was at Brand Park. And you guys feel confident your fire hydrant is accessible?
Yes, on the 3536 block, there is a standpipe in the middle of the block. So if you scroll down to slide number 6 here, there is a fire hydrant on the east side of the market directly in the middle and a standpipe on the west side of the market directly in the middle.
A second, while I toggle through my 20 windows. 5 and 6, you said?
Number 6 specifically.
6, what am I looking at?
So close to the center of the east portion, it's on the bottom here where that red circle is. On the other side of the fire lane, there's a fire hydrant. And then directly across at the door of the building, you can see it on this map. If you look closely, there's a standpipe there with water access for the fire department.
Okay, good. What about, what's the plan?
There's more than just this location to the market though. Are there other locations for the fire hydrants? Cause it goes beyond just this
Yeah.
one block, right?
There are,
There's, like,
but this is
several
the only
blocks?
block that will have cooking.
Okay,
Okay,
but there was an electrical fire last year
that
that wasn't related to
to cook.
cooking. I'm just wondering if you also happen to know the locations of fire hydrants there.
Yeah, there are, I want to say that if you scroll to number 5,
5, okay.
if we look closely here, I want to say that there are standpipes near the entrance of Macy's that the fire department can access. I have to consult my notes for if there's a standing hydrant, but I know that there's standpipes. And then on 32, 33, I would like to say there is a hydrant here near the yellow triangle on the right-hand side. You'll see it right there on the right hand, sorry. You'll see the small circle on the sidewalk. If you go up to the right to the other triangle towards the carousel, directly underneath that, it appears that there's a hydrant there. And you can see that there's also a standpipe on the building wall there on the east side of the sidewalk.
Okay, what was my other question? All right, and then what about, what's the plan for storage of the propane cylinders, since the fire was right next to where the propane cylinders was stored?
There will be no propane on site whatsoever.
So how's the cooking being done?
Electric.
Okay. And then, great, that's good. And then what about who's in charge of inspecting the electrical wiring?
So we've hired a new electrician who has who will be in charge of this. They'll have somebody on site at all times during operation. So they will be inspecting daily.
Okay. Thank you.
And can we just, for some of our committee members who are later arriving, can we just run through again the fire extinguishers where there's 2 of them per booth? That's for the ones where the cooking is being done, or is that for all of them?
That's for cooking kiosks.
Okay. But the fire rating is for all of them, right?
That's correct.
Great. Just wanted to make sure that everyone knows the extent of the fire rated materials and how much work has gone into all of this. And the electrical, we know that our questions are a little bit more extensive. Based on last year. Additional questions from members of the committee online or in the room about the fire portion of the holiday market for here or potentially other urban space locations if. Okay.
I did have a question
Okay, about fire stuff.
about fire stuff.
Okay. Question about fire
Right.
connected.
My question is, it's new and breaking, but my understanding is that there's an early warning system that FDNY now has that links technology and surveillance cameras to fire. And I just wanted to know if that was part of the plan, or if you could just reach out to them and see. It seemed like it would be a helpful tool during holiday market. It's mostly for buildings, my understanding, and so I'm just asking. But it's called the FDNY early warning system has been upgraded to include, they can surveil their surveillance, they're using cameras and that kind of thing, and it would just seem
Mhm.
helpful to tie some of the webcams that are already in the area to their system during the holiday market.
Sure. Yeah, in our next conversation with them, we'll be sure to ask. Early warning system.
Yeah.
Okay.
Great, thank you, Catherine. I'm gonna do this in 2 parts, so I'm gonna go to members of the public now for public comment. If there is anyone from,
Well, before, I think Mike had a question.
Mike, did you have an additional question about the fires?
No, I'm done.
Okay. So if there's any member of the public who wants to comment on the 34th Street fire part of the presentation, please raise your hand. Okay, seeing none. Pulling it back in quickly to committee discussion. How are folks feeling with this part of the presentation? We're gonna move on to the rest of the holiday market conversation in a minute, but given this update, how are people feeling about the update?
Sound pretty good, they're paying attention.
Yeah.
Julia?
Yes, it sounds
Totally.
like the attention paid to the fire safety hazards and preventing that really detailed. Love that there's full-time staff devoted to it. I hear be on site at all times doing inspections daily. There's completely new material being used, so I think it seems Urban Space responded to a lot of our concerns raised, and
Including the 911 phone tree,
yes.
which we appreciate very much. Things get a little bit chaotic in a crisis. Okay, great. So we can decide whether we want to do an update in a notes presentation on that. Which can then just go into, like the presentation, I'll give it full board, for that, but can also factor into a resolution. Doesn't have to be an actual like memo update that we vote on. It can just be incorporated, or it could be something that we vote on, but Josh, that's right, we can just have that be included as an update, right? Does anyone have any opinions of what direction they would like for this to go?
I don't think this needs to be a resolution.
Agreed. Agreed. Yeah.
Okay,
I will say though that in the follow-up, it would be good to just note, especially how responsive they've been to the long ongoing conversation. But it's just an update, so I agree. Thank you.
okay, great. Thank you, Evan, Eldon, and Lauren for that update, and also for rolling with us on wanting to hear the rest of the presentation that we thought we were getting for the holiday market itself. But we really appreciate all of the time that you put into our ongoing conversations at all of the holiday locations, and all of that. Myrna, is that your slides or is that?
Those are my slides.
Okay, so we're gonna have them take us through some of
I
the,
have the same slides, so I'm happy to pull those up as well.
whoever wants to run the slides is welcome to do so now.
Terrible at running slides. So it's gonna-
Yeah, I'm happy to do so. Thank you.
Thank you very much
Um,
for that. I've circulated to the committee the questionnaire that we got back today from Urban Space. On top of the traditional annual meeting slides that we have from 34th Street Partnership, but also included an update on this. I believe this is the second year of the market
Yes.
in general, so.
Yeah, and just to shed some light, you know, we're not only taking these actions on the Herald Square market. We've built 450 new kiosks for all of our non-Bryant Park markets. So what you see here is what will be in the other markets. I believe some of them fall under your purview as well. So these are the new updated market kiosks. They will take a bit different shape. And that's by design. So as you can see, you know, all of the exterior and interior walls are made of this fireproof product. The interior studs of said walls have been replaced from wood 2x4 to steel stud, which is non-combustible, and all of our roofs have been replaced from aluminum to steel, which has a higher, you know, fire rating. I'll scroll into, this is just a mock-up of what our market directory was last year. We're still working on the design for this, but we'll have something that spans across the 3 blocks and has a QR code. As you can see, there's quite a few vendor names and it becomes hard to read. So we will have a QR code that will allow folks to review the vendor list and find them quickly and easily. Just some of our signage. So we'll have Macy's Holiday Square signage on either ends of the entrances. We'll have maps and directories up throughout the market. And then we'll decorate with garland and wreaths and overhead lights for decor. I'll start down on the 32nd to 33 block. All of our market is taking place in plaza space, so none in Parklands. This specific block will have between 28 and 30 vendors. This is where the carousel will be placed.
Describe for which block you're describing for the committee, but also for anyone who's visually impaired who might be watching the presentation.
Sure, this is Greeley Square, so between on Broadway between 32nd and 33rd. Again, this will have anywhere between 28 and 30 vendors. This portion of the market is scheduled to open a bit later. This will open we'll load vendors in after Thanksgiving and open right around the 1st of December. This will run through the 3rd of January, and our loadout will take place in the following 2 days. So now I'm scrolling down to
Those
Harold.
dates again, can I write them down?
Can we, so that those dates are the southern portion by Greeley Square, just to make sure we have that right, is that you think that the vendors will open a little bit later and will open after Thanksgiving? Are the vendors north opening sooner?
The vendors on 35, 36, so Harold North are opening sooner, yes. They're opening November 8th.
November 8th.
That's
Okay,
correct.
and then it's going to then run through, so it will close on January 3rd, and then loadout will be 2 days, and so loadout will be completed by January 5th, right, for everything?
So the 3536 block, this is a DOT block. So we have a DOT permit for our first 29-day concession. This is going to run from November 8th. The first DOT concession will expire on the 1st of December. And then the second 29-day concession will kick in on the 2nd of December. And this portion of the market will close on the 30th of December.
Okay, so that's for the Greeley, the area around Greeley Square.
That's 3536. So that's the first to open.
3536 is.
Oh, 3536, sorry, the Herald Square Plaza, those streets.
Harold North, yes.
Harold North, okay. The north part of the bow tie.
Correct.
And there'll
And
be
then the second block to open will be Greeley Square, which is where we just were. That will be 12/1, December 1st through January 3rd. And then the final block to open will be the Herald Square block in front of Macy's. This we will start building this after the parade comes through. This will be built. Apologies, I'm pulling a calendar. This will be built starting the 29th of November into the 30th of November. We'll load the vendors in on the 1st and the 2nd of December, and we will open for business on the 3rd of December and operate through the 3rd of January.
Okay,
Herald Square between 34th and 35th.
okay. This committee also sees like street permits for parades and post-parade events, so it's the Public Spaces Committee also, which is why we also review this stuff.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, okay, so that also sounds like a lot of logistics with the 3 different timing pieces of that.
Yeah, so they are phased openings. So the entire market will be fully open from December 3rd until December 30th, and then the first block will close, which is 3536. We'll be out of there. It'll take roughly 1 day to load out of that block, and then we will load the other 2 blocks out on the 4th and the 5th of January.
Okay.
Okay, so just for the community board's awareness, on Greeley Square, we'll be using ground power. So we will not have a generator. And the same electrician that's running the rest of the market will be managing that for us. On the 34, 35 Herald Square block, the generator will be on the eastern side of the park, in the pedestrian walkway, which will reroute the pedestrians through the 15-foot fire lane. And this will be fully enclosed, and will not infringe on the bike lane. And then on the 3536 block, we will be placing our generator and the dumpster for the entirety of the market in the parking lane on the south side of 36th Street between Broadway and 6th Avenue.
Okay. Do you want to speak to some of the, I don't know how much more of the presentation you have, but some of the changes from last year? I know the restaurant and the carousel are.
Sure. So some of the changes that we're putting in place from last year, on the 3536 block, we've partnered with a food and beverage operator called Stout. They'll be running the open air or the covered tent rather. It is a 50-foot by 33-foot wide tent that will have 3 open entrances. It will be ADA compliant, and it will cap off the end of the market at 36th Street and open into the market facing south. This block down here at Greeley Square, this is where the carousel will be located. And I do believe someone from 34th Street is here to speak to the carousel, as this is a separate sub-concession.
Yes, hi, I'm happy to speak to that whenever you'd like me.
Go ahead if you have any details on the placement or the timing, the dates, etc.
Absolutely. Thanks, Evan. Hi, Zach Barrison from 34th Street. Hello, everybody. The carousel is going to open probably about November 22nd, so maybe about a week before the holiday shops there in Greeley Square Plaza. It'll be $6 a ride. It's accessible, which we're very excited about. The goal here is to just, continue to draw people to all the public spaces of the market and make the space active, throughout the cold months. And we're working with a number of city agencies that are involved. We started with SAPO because they suggested to us, every different city agency that we needed to coordinate with on this. So that's DOT, Parks, DOB, FDNY, the MTA.
Can you speak a little bit more about the carousel itself?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a 2-tier carousel. So there are stairs in the center of which you can, go up to the second level. But again, the first level is accessible, and it fits 76 people. And it's toured around the US and Canada, has never been to New York. So we're excited to bring it here. And I don't believe that there's any other 2-tier carousels in New York. So hopefully it should be, a special attraction.
Okay. I don't know, Evan, if there was more of the presentation.
Yeah, so the only other thing to add is, in addition to the new ads and, that will hopefully draw people to the market, we have changed the layout of the market a bit to increase foot traffic and flow in and out of the market. Last year, our market was heavily lined with hard wall, whereas this year we have a number of new entrances in and out of the market. So hopefully we're hoping that makes the market more accessible and easy to enter and exit as guests wish and please. As I previously mentioned, the majority of the food and beverage will all be located on 3536, so at the north end of the block. There will be a few hot cocoa vendors and sweet vendors, but no major cooking will be taking place anywhere but the 3536 block. So that we can ensure we keep a good eye and keep those booths together. Outside of that, that's really it in terms of the changes and the layout. And then the hours of operation for 3 Greeley Square and Herald Square will be 11 a.m. until 8 p.m. And then the block 3536 with the covered tent will be 11 a.m. to 9 p.m. for an extra hour up there.
And Zach, what were the hours of the carousel again?
I believe our plan is to start with about 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. But we're going to see what the demand looks like from operating the carousel, which is year-round in Bryant Park, and then also the bumper cars and the skating there. We've sort of learned to be flexible, so we'll see what the demand looks like, but that's the plan to start.
But not flexible? Would it go later than 11 p.m.?
No, no, no. I thank you for clarifying. It would only be shortening it beyond that.
Okay,
Yeah.
thanks for the clarification.
Mhm.
Okay. Thank you so much for walking us through that, Evan. I know that was not what you thought was happening. Julia did our presentation and all of our due diligence on this. And I know that you have excellent questions prepared to run us through some of what we consider when we run through market applications.
Yeah, thanks, Sylvie. Question on the carousel. I'm wondering, I know you guys had planned on presenting on this portion, but just wondering if there's a real life render you can share with us to just conceptualize the two-tier and how it's stand against Macy's, for example.
Absolutely. I have some pictures of it in other locations, so I can show that. Just give me a moment.
Thank you. I think that's all.
Yeah, of course. Okay, let me know if you can see the screen. It should be a picture of the carousel at nighttime.
Yeah.
Yes, you can see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. Okay, so yes, this is the carousel. So this is a real photo, not a render, a real photo of the carousel in another location where it has been used. So this is it at nighttime, you can see, and then here's one at daytime. And we'll decorate it to sort of match the rest of the market and the holiday experience.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have additional questions too from the?
So the carousel's awesome, but huge. Regarding pedestrian management, could you guys maybe walk us through how you planned for and are figuring pedestrian management for the carousel, for the bar pavilion, and also the existing park spaces that you said were not being closed?
Absolutely. At all times, not even just with the carousel, but at all times we're very wary of where we, have events and place planters and do anything, in the parks and plazas. We're wary of the pedestrian flow, especially, through the parks and around the parks where there's heavy pedestrian flow from north to south. So we're planning around that, and we don't want to impede on that at all. So we have that in mind, and we'll be sure to adjust things if it feels like anything is in the way. But as of right now, we feel like we're pretty comfortable, knowing what we do about pedestrian flow in this area.
Can you pull up that map again? I don't know if you have a slide.
Evan,
around.
could you
Yeah.
pull the map back up? Sorry. Thanks.
Thank you. Just to show how the flow around that.
Mhm.
And line management.
Mm-hmm.
Here we go. Okay.
Yeah, so the carousel is that the circle there on the sort of eastern end of the park and plaza. So there, sorry.
Northern end, I believe.
Yes, correct.
We got there eventually. It's the northern end of the plaza. So it's the bow ties where it's Greeley Square and Herald Square, which we talk about a lot. Greeley Square is the south part of the bow tie, and the narrow part is the north part of that triangle. And so the carousel is at the north part of that triangle. Zach, do you have any information about, I know this isn't exactly the diagram with the feet or metrics or measurements around it, but do you happen to know what the clearance would be to walk around it or where you plan to have the lines exactly?
I don't have that on me. Don't know those numbers specifically, but we can definitely get back to you with that.
I don't know where it is, where the queuing is happening.
Yeah.
Do you know like what direction?
Yes.
If you don't have the specifics, like where?
The queuing will go south into the plaza, not towards the crosswalks or the intersections.
Okay, because the market stalls itself are set up in that eastern lane. So it'll go into which plaza space exactly?
It'll go sort of just south of the carousel and closer to the park side, so closer to the west side of Broadway there, around where the red circle is nearest to the carousel. Yeah, more towards more south towards that, around that red circle, yeah, in that area.
In the hashed area, is that what we're talking about?
I believe this is a queuing zone. It's hard to
Uh-huh.
read, but this whole
Okay.
area here shows a queuing zone.
Got it.
Okay,
Mhm.
Because it holds 75 people, you said?
Yes, at maximum capacity.
Doesn't
And
go with the
then
bike.
just to add, Zach, I don't mean to step on your.
No, please.
But there is opportunity to snake queuing back and forth through this area, and then this fire lane is 15 feet, and these are all booth rears. So the market will be booth facing booth, so there is opportunity for the line. If it continues to extend throughout this queuing zone, it will run out into the fire lane in south.
Is,
Yeah.
is there going to be a booth where people can purchase, or is it just mobile only?
There's going to be a ticket kiosk, and there people will be they'll be able to scan a QR code to purchase the tickets online. It'll work very similarly to the ice skating tickets at Bryant Park. So you can pay in person, but you can also pay online. So you could also pay ahead of time to make the process easier with getting on the carousel.
Okay, thanks.
And the I should say the ticket booth will sort of serve as an info kiosk, where people can learn about, the market and all things going on, around the area.
Yes, Julia, did you have, I know you had a long list. Also, Evan, if you wanted to just briefly share, because this is part of our questionnaire, what we ask, just so everyone still has, and I'm anticipating some questions here, about the signs that you shared, with the committee, like example signage of the like size and shape.
Sure.
It was a separate file that you'd sent. I just want to make sure that we have that on the screen too.
I see.
Bike lane of that things.
We'll get there.
So let's pull this, and this. All right, as these download, I'm happy to give you guys just the overview of what we're looking at for the lodge tent. So this tent, as I mentioned, it's 50 feet long by 30 feet wide. There will be 3 main entrances. So there'll be an entrance on the northeast corner, an entrance on the southeast corner, and then an entrance in the middle. There's also this whole area will be open. It will likely have planters here as a semi barrier, but there will be a main entrance into the market halfway through, and then you can come and go as you please. These entrances into the tent will have ADA ramps so that the tent is fully accessible to ADA. And then while we're on the beer tent lodge conversation, I would like to share the signage that will be on the exterior. Let's pull this.
Macy's right here. Is this
No,
Macy's?
no,
It's not
that's
Macy's.
east. And a block north.
Not bad. Yeah, I don't know whether-
I'm not sure, this is very small on my screen. Can you guys see the?
We can see it, yes.
Okay, so this is what's called a gable end. This will be the signage on the exterior of the tent on the north and south. So it's called the Herald House and Bar by Stout. A couple other signage items I want to show are the vendor signs that we have. Okay, so in the same vein as the beer lodge tent, these will also be a red and white design. These will be on every single vendor kiosk with their booth number and their name. And then I also want to show this is a mock directory that we have. Okay, let's show that. So this will be the market directory that I was discussing. It shows each block So this is the 3536 block. This is the Herald Square block. And then down near the carousel, this would be the Greeley Square block. As you can imagine, there's quite a few vendors here. So it will be a QR code that you scan to review the vendor list.
Great.
And this will be placed throughout the market at minimum 2 per each block.
Okay. Julia, did you have more additional questions in general?
Yeah, just one general question. If Urban Space can just go through with us any sustainable efforts or initiatives they have implemented this year that they would like to highlight. Things like compost initiatives, single-use plastic limits or restrictions on vendors, etc.
So we always strive to limit the use of single-use plastics with our vendors. However, in these pop-up markets, it is somewhat difficult. But regardless, we do use or we go for single stream recycling. So all of the cardboard is broken down, baled, and given to a recycling company that picks up separate from the trash to make sure that the cardboard doesn't end up in the trash, and it's reused. You know, that's probably the limit of our environmental at this point.
Got it. Any specific type of generators or electrical things you think would be cited as sustainable?
So historically, we've used large KVA battery packs. However, the FDNY has deemed them unsafe, so we're not able to use those this year, which is a really unfortunate situation.
Thanks.
So the generator, you said that down at Greeley Square, can you just tell us one more time for those of us who aren't as technical, what the type of generator is down at that southern?
Yeah,
Right.
it's direct Con Edison power.
Okay. And then the larger generator is still one of the larger ones. Can you speak to any of the sound elements of the generator, maybe?
They're sound attenuated generators, so they, you know, they do have. It would be the same as in previous years. I can't speak to the sound, to be honest with you.
Okay. Okay.
I guess on sound, in terms of any permits you guys had to get regarding sound, there any specific moments or activations where, you know, you had to get a permit or a specific exception based on noise limits? Like
Not
that?
for sound, no. We don't anticipate having amplified sound.
Great. Yep. All right. Questions from the committee? All right, lots of questions. EJ.
Can you speak to what the, being that it's a holiday marketers and especially at that time, there's gonna be a lot of crowds and people, what is the sanitation for, garbage bins availability for people to be able to quickly be able to, you know, discard?
Sure.
Right.
So, excuse me. So we'll work with 34th Street Partnership to use the existing trash bins. We will have on-site porters or maintenance workers who will empty and clean said rubbish removal waste bins. And then we will have a 30-yard dumpster on the 36th Street under our SAPO permit that will get removed daily.
So is that garbage, monitoring throughout the day pickup?
Yes, we have porters on each block dedicated during all hours of operation.
And then another question if I may, is as to do with bathrooms, you know, especially around again that time. Will you have porta johns or some porta potties? How will you direct people who need the?
I can, Evan, I'm happy to jump in if you like.
Thanks, Ed.
Sure. We'll have the 2 restrooms open one at Herald Square Park and one at Greeley Square Park. So those will be open for the duration of the market and during all market hours. And the Herald Square bathroom only opened last year after it was closed for a long time. So that's been a big relief on, regular restroom needs in the area, and so that'll help with the market and during the holidays as there are more people there.
How many is
How many
that?
stalls?
How many
though?
stalls
Yeah,
is that?
Yeah, is it
There-
just one? Men's
No,
and women's?
No,
Is that-
they're unisex and there's multiple stalls in each. I believe there's one more at Greeley than there is Herald. I have to get back on the exact numbers, but there's multiple in each of Herald and Greeley Square Park.
And those will also be maintained for cleanliness or enough toilet paper and all that?
Absolutely,
Or-
yes. During all operating hours, we'll have a bathroom attendant there on site, who does all those things, cleans the bathrooms per usual, and also is just a staffed presence there, to help make sure that, the bathrooms are safe and all that.
And those are additional bathrooms that you're bringing in, or just the norm, those are just the normal? So there
No,
isn't any.
mhm. Those are the permanent bathrooms that are there. Yes.
Okay. Okay, thank you for the answer.
Mhm.
Additional questions?
Yeah, one more.
Yeah.
I know you're going to set up the markets day after Thanksgiving, but as you know, there's a ginormous, humongous crowd attracting Thanksgiving parade, Macy's parade that will go through. So what is going to be the crowd control, or, I mean, that's going to take away from normal tourists or people to enjoy the parade if you already have these set up on those areas, right? To see the
The market will
what's-
be closed on Thanksgiving Day, so it shouldn't impinge on the parade.
It will though, because the structures are there for the crowd to go through, because the parade comes down. So that means having all these stalls already set up means that people will have to wind themselves through that. So you're taking
Alright.
away from real estate where I could stand and watch the parade.
Sorry, no, the parade, the structures do not hinge on the parade whatsoever. So the block that will be built is always historically been a frozen zone anyway. So pedestrians are not allowed in that block anyhow. And we will not be building until after the parade on 34th, 35th.
So just to clarify, the 35th to 36th is traditionally a frozen zone where there is no viewing from. And the Greeley Square Plaza, that part of the market opens on after Thanksgiving anyway, right?
Correct.
Okay. Okay, additional questions? Yes.
It just seemed like there were a lot of times listed for the different sections. Like, it seemed like for the setup, it was because of the parade and things like that, but are there any concerns that there's different times for the breakdown and then some is like right before New Year's Eve? Because a lot's being broken down 12:30, is that correct?
We'll be out of the 35, 36 block on New Year's Eve.
Okay, so but you have no concerns about like setting up and breaking down on 12:30 and having that be disruptive to the area?
No, not so much. We do the same thing at our Columbus Circle Holiday Market and load out on the day of New Year's Eve.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Todd, I see your hand is raised.
Hi, everybody. My audio is not the greatest. Can everybody hear me?
Yeah, but speak up.
Oh, okay. What do you estimate the size of the crowds and the number of people passing through the installation is going to be based on your marketing and other information?
I don't have any counts of the historic foot traffic. Zach, I don't know if you're prepared with that information, but at our other markets, we see quite a large foot traffic coming through, and this is a major holiday destination. So I certainly envision over, anywhere between 1,000 and 5,000 per day, if not more.
Are there any procedures in place to limit or help direct overflow at busy times, or it's just catch as catch can for those coming?
We don't have any procedures to limit, as we don't want to ticket the event or close it off to the public.
I simply mention this because with other holiday markets, it's been an issue. So I would urge you, to be prepared and, not allow that Herald Square and that particular part of our district can just get incredibly crowded. So, just based on my experience of that part of our district, just get ready and have some contingency plans.
Okay, thank you. Additional questions? Michael Kabak.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, Zach, if the bid has arranged for any additional police to be in the area for pickpockets and other nefarious goings on, that this kind of a mass of people, like Todd mentioned, because it's gonna be a mess of people, has there been any contact with the police department to have some extra uniformed people patrolling the area?
Absolutely. I mean, we work with the police department every day, and I know that our security chief has spoken with them, about this market. I don't know, well enough about if they can guarantee any sort of, police posts or anything like that. But we'll be sure to, continue working with the precinct throughout the market, and address conditions. And our security, I should say, will be there, throughout the market as they are, regularly at the public spaces during the day. There will also be overnight security at the market.
Great, thank you, Zach.
Mhm.
Additional questions from members of the committee? Myrtle, and I got several, thank you.
Actually, no, most of them were covered by the rest of the committee. Could you talk about the general footprint in terms of the number of vendors you have this time around? How many of those are serving food, and how does that compare with last year?
Sure. I've got about 30 vendors serving food of a total, I want to say 126 vendors. So it's probably right around 15-20% food and beverage versus 75% retail. As mentioned, all of those food and beverage vendors will be located up on the 3536 block, and then we will have a couple sweets and provisions and hot chocolate vendors scattered throughout the other two blocks. However, the Macy's 34-35 block will be very heavily retail focused, and the block down at Greeley Square will have a little bit more sweets and provisions to go along with the carousel, but primarily retail as well.
Okay, and how does that compare to last year?
It's similar, how in terms of number of vendors, it's just spread out further.
Spread out further as in how?
We've added another block,
There's another block that wasn't there last year.
and I only have four more vendors.
So would you say that the individual kiosks are bigger?
No, they're not bigger, they're just spaced out more.
The spaced out more. Okay. And are you serving liquor, I assume?
Our food and beverage operator is applying for a beer and wine license, yes.
Okay, got it. So 30 vendors serving food and beverages, and you're serving liquor, but no additional restrooms are provided, right? I mean, just to be sure, these restrooms that you pointed to are already there, have been.
Correct.
Okay. So I see that. Reserve my comments for later. Could we go back to the map? I just want to know where the bike lane is on the map, just so I see where the conflicts might happen with the pedestrians.
And identify the streets on the map. I'm having trouble.
Yeah, it's because it's turned around, which is,
It's turned around, right?
yeah, just not.
I don't know if
ideal.
there's a way to rotate the screen to maybe make it a little bit
Right, I mean, we're used to looking at maps, north
north to
south.
south, if at all possible. I know that a rotation
Yeah.
might be,
Okay, that's helpful, yeah.
thank
So
you.
this is Greeley Square, this is the northern portion of Greeley. This is the southern portion of Greeley. The bike lane is on the other side of the street, I believe, so this block is not affected.
Wait, isn't there a bike lane on Broadway too?
Not in this block.
Not here.
Mm-mm.
Not in this spot, okay.
No, not in Greeley.
What about the next one?
This we're going to show, so this is Herald Square. 3-5 at the north, 3-4 at the south. So there will be a south facing or a southern bike lane that will be here along the edge of the fire lane.
Okay, I'm on the other side, so that's good.
This hasn't moved and the other's on the other side. And then let's go to. Here is 3-5, 3-6. The bike lane is being rerouted to the east side of the street.
Is there a chance, is there a possibility of putting up barriers so there's no spillage of pedestrians into the bike lane accidentally causing conflict?
There's an additional 10 feet before the bike lane even begins.
Right, but is it possible to put up some sort of barriers there?
There will be the DOT delineators, the white posts that are, you know, drilled into the ground that are
Okay.
standard in their bike lanes. Those will be there.
Got it,
Mhm.
got it. Thank you. What about insurance for the vendors?
The vendors are required by their license agreements to have their own insurance.
Okay, got it. What else did I want to know? Have you considered having, as part of the sustainability effort, have you considered mandating your vendors to have recyclable plates, cutlery, cups, all that good stuff? Instead of
Yeah, I mean, we're always striving to do that. However, to mandate that and ensure that they're following protocol is extremely time exhaustive.
why is
And
that?
well, we have to check every vendor every day.
you can
For
just tell
every
them-
single piece of, you know, cutlery and plates and napkins.
Well, I assume that if you inspect them once, then they won't, it's not like they're day two, they'll go around and get different cutlery, right? I mean, on that, don't they just buy them in bulk?
Well, I mean, whatever is cheapest for them is the route that they typically go.
Well, that's why I think it might make sense for you guys to tell them to use recyclable stuff instead of plastic, for example.
Yep, it's something that, you know, we certainly try. It's very difficult to mandate. But yes, it's on our mind.
And then you talked about the financials. You said 1.25 goes to, is that what goes to 34th Street? Or is that what Urban Space is making?
I'm not equipped to answer that question at this time.
Why is that?
I don't know where those financials came from. I don't know who submitted them.
Coming from the annual report. I think that was coming from the annual report while we were waiting for the questionnaire to come in. So it was projections from 34th Street, but I think that includes revenue that's not connected to the market because it's a different sub-concession as well. So it's a multiple. It also depends on the revenue share in the contract between Urban Space and 34th Street Partnership, where it's a revenue split and a split of proceeds beyond a certain amount either come back or it's a flat fee depending on the agreement, is my understanding. But please correct me if I'm wrong, Zach.
I mean, yes, it is a revenue split, but again, I'm not equipped to answer the question or not.
Got it. And then we talked about, you said, so you're not allowed to use battery packs for the generator. So I'm assuming they're running on gasoline, right?
They run on diesel fuel and DEF fuel to limit the emissions.
I'm sorry, what kind of fuel?
DEF.
Yeah, fuel. Why not have brown power for everything?
Jasmine Cat, FaceTime video.
We would love that, but it's a multi-million dollar and 10+ year project that typically would take place with Con Ed.
Got it. Thank you.
Love you, bye.
I think, Julia, I think you had some questions, maybe follow-up questions for the bid as far as like the bid management of this end of things. There's like follow-up questions for like after the holiday market.
Oh, yeah, I think we were just wondering if it would be possible, because it was mentioned that there is a new technology in terms of counting attendees and flow, if it would be possible to share any of that data and metrics with this committee post-market, just so we can understand all the data that you all are doing as well.
I'm not involved in that project myself, so I can't say, you know, specifically what data is being collected, but we can definitely circle back and, you know, share what we found.
Great. And that was for foot traffic, right? Just want to make sure
Yes.
that we know what we're
Correct.
asking.
Mhm.
Okay. And just for overall market attendance, I think that in the past, the committee for parades and post-parade events is used sanitation and waste, like sort of like the number of bags of waste that are taken out as a metric
Yeah.
in some ways, as like a heuristic, but
So to that point, I would want to be less prescriptive, maybe just any data they're willing to share that they've
Yeah.
received.
I mean, that's also great. I think the waste thing also seems to track somewhat to our environmental realm. But if there are any other questions from the committee,
I have a comment.
we're gonna get there. I will now open it up to the public. If there's any members of the public who would like to make a comment about 34th Street Holiday Market, Carousel Restaurant, please raise your hand and wait to be recognized. Okay, seeing none, I will now bring us into business session. How are folks feeling in the committee about what we've heard? Are there any opinions, anything people disagree with? This is a newer application. Julia, if you wanted to run us through the holiday matrix, which is a little bit of to guide our conversation. It's not prescriptive, but it's a little bit like the normal matrix for activations. It just goes a little bit more into detail about like booths themselves.
Yeah, so I mean, in terms of the things like visual aesthetic, impact on public use, sanitation, public benefit, I think those are key issues in our matrix where this application fares better than the other areas, which are sustainability. I think footprint is the major concern. I keep hearing crowding, and also crowding and how that will impede any emergency procedures that would need to be enacted in case of a fire or what have you. But I think overall, in general, it seems that the applicant definitely seriously considered the issues that occurred at last year's market and adjusted properly. I think they have a reputation of successfully carrying out these markets in the past. They are working with all of the relevant city agencies on the permitting. So I would feel very comfortable approving this with a resolution that maybe states a few whereases where we as a committee emphasize that we would like to see some concrete plans in terms of like pedestrian management, like queuing in front of the carousel, things of that nature. Maybe a plan about like bathroom management and like, what's the plan B if all the bathrooms are full and there's a line, what is the attendant saying to patrons? And those would kind of just be key whereases, and then, I would feel comfortable voting to approve.
Okay. Anyone disagree or agree with what Julia has said? Todd, online.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes. So, you heard my question to the presenter. So I think what I heard satisfies me. There should be a whereas. It doesn't sound like they really know, other than to speculate, what the crowd is going to be and what the sidewalk and the pedestrian flow is going to be. So they may not know, but we should certainly, in our resolution, comment on that prospective issue. This is not the first holiday village of this type. We hope for the best. They do improve and add life to the city. But let's make sure we make that concern known in our resolution.
Okay. Other comments, agree, disagree? Michael K.
I have a comment, with regard to the fires. After last year, two fires last year, and all of this craziness that everybody's so super concerned that God forbid anything should happen and it's gonna be over. So I think these people who earn a living doing this are gonna be super conservative in what they let go on and what they let happen, so that there should be no repeat of a fire, let alone two. My comment.
Okay. Other comments? We've got a proposed resolution coming together here. Arnold?
Okay, here are my concerns. I'm very encouraged by you guys responding or them responding on fire issue. My big concern is, the same thing that we saw, we earlier said about Bryant Park as well, the holiday market, Bryant Park. The footprint keeps increasing, right? So now we have an additional block. Okay, now we've set a precedent, so that's sort of the base case for every following year. We have an additional block now that's part of the holiday market, which is fine if the number of vendors, well, not really fine, but I mean, if it's more spread out, it was, you've gone from being a, tenement to being, better apartments, but you're taking up more space, fine. It is a bigger footprint though, and now we're setting a precedence by approving an additional block of kiosks. That's one. The other thing is obviously the restroom situation, right? I mean, we kind of see this again and again, right? I mean, the other day Union Square was here, it was the same situation, right? All right, we're putting up all these kiosks, we're providing food, we're providing drinks, but we will not be responsible for any sort of porta potties. There is a porta potty across the street on Whole Foods, go use that. Or use the porta potties that already exist. We know they're not enough as is, the infrastructure is not enough in the city as is. And this puts additional strain on the infrastructure when you guys are benefiting from the food and beverage that's being served. We expect you, just like any other restaurant, which is required by law to provide restrooms, That's what we're saying. We're not asking for anything special. And finally, on the sustainability issue, I don't understand why you couldn't mandate the vendors to provide. I don't understand why the holiday market organizers, i.e. Urban Space, cannot mandate their vendors to do the bare minimum, which is provide ask that they provide recyclable plates, cutlery, cups. I mean, it seems.
Would you be on that point, would you be amenable to a resolution that in one of the whereas clauses said we strongly encourage Urban Space or any subsequent vendor to partner with 34th Street Partnership to explore making more sustainable or environmentally friendly like disposable products
I would like strong
available
language on that.
or composting?
I would
you
like
to
strong.
propose some extra language of an encouragement? Maybe you can think on it for a minute. Also, I did want to follow up with Zach, just to clarify something. Would this, I don't know if you are able to speak to the financials since they are currently a projection. But I think two questions. One, are you able to say, at this time, would this be a significant amount or a significant addition? And maybe a percentage number that you might be able to give us, or in some sort of shape of how much this would contribute to the operating budget and ability of 34th Street to carry out some of your regular programming that you also do, and street maintenance and sanitation work throughout the year.
I can't say with any certainty, but we'll definitely get back to you when we have those numbers. And as always, everything will go back into the regular maintenance and the streetscape and sanitation and security, like you said.
But do you believe it would be a significant amount? Would it be like measurable or helpful to 34th Street Partnership?
I'm just not sure since we don't know yet what it's gonna look like.
Okay.
So one more.
And then would you potentially be willing, this can also just be a follow-up offline to send us like a post-market like check-in on that so that we know that if it was successful for you guys?
Yeah,
Um,
I can go back and yes, I can go back and
We
talk to people here
appreciate-
about what we can
appreciate the
share.
Annual programming and all that you do in the area, and the staffing, and all of that. So we want to make sure that you have the resources, to carry that out too. So just wanted to flag that for members of the committee that is also in consideration here.
Mhm.
Other comments?
Just have one more
May-
comment.
Let me go to a
I
different,
just want to finish it.
oh, is that on the same topic?
On the point of generators, I think that there ought to be a third option. You guys wanted to use a battery pack that is not approved by the FDNY, fine. But we don't like diesel run generators. There's gotta be a third option that's both accessible, that's both acceptable to the FDNY and is not poisonous. Have you guys, is there another option? It's what are the only two options?
With the amount of power that's running through the market, and I'm assuming you're asking me a question, with the amount of power that's running through this market, there is no other option at this time outside of having Con Ed agree to running the permanent infrastructure.
Would it be possible for you to maybe follow up with us, like offline and maybe with Zach too, of what the infrastructure would be required if the plaza renovation were to happen, like what Con Ed would need to go in to make that not a generator question, just from a long-term sustainability question for like future, like long horizon?
I'm sure that the 34th Street Partnership folks can follow up as it's their plaza. And I think that they have looked into this before. So I will pass that to 34th Street Partnership as we're simply the operator.
Yeah, I can
Great.
try to find out some more about that. I know in the past there's been big power upgrades at Bryant Park. And we'd love to have the power there at Herald Square. It's definitely not by any means something, that we like to have the generators. They also take up space on 36th Street. So if we didn't need to have those there, that would be great.
I'm thinking ahead to our second agenda item, which is our budget requests and capital budget requests too. So that is part of where that question is coming from, for how we can get the space upgraded to meet everyone's needs better. Which it sounds like it would also meet the vendors' needs better too. Okay, additional comments? Yeah.
Just was gonna say, I hear all of your comments. I think they're really valid, but I also think we obviously know we're like on crunch time, maybe, because it's Q4 basically. So is there any way in the resolution we can propose kind of like a mix of some of these things said? So like, can we, with the expansion of the market with the additional vendors and the request to get more data with the data tracking this year, put in the resolution, like we want to make sure data is collected on these factors so that we can incorporate these sustainability measures and if there's like crowd issues and sort of those learnings from the data next year or in future markets in this area. That makes sense.
I think we can ask for it in a whereas. How do other committee members feel about asking for that? To the extent they're able to share that. That was a follow-up of I think Zach said he was gonna be able to follow up and find out, but it wasn't a set amount that can be for fact to sure.
Can I ask
Julia.
clarification?
Yeah.
Would we be prescribing the actual data points we want them to collect and then share with us?
The
exercise, or would we just be requesting?
I think requesting, I read that as like requesting whatever data they're collecting and then maybe also asking for some green information.
Yeah, basically
And just-
requesting what they're collecting and ensuring that they're able, like that they're kind of keeping that top of mind throughout the season so that they can apply it to anything in future. But it might be a little late to do something now, but if they're able to, what did we see in terms of visitors? What were any issues due to the extra expanded footprint and sort of data to incorporate into next year? Yeah.
So both on the crowding or like crowd management flow and sort of queuing, and then maybe on like some of sanitation of greening sort of questions, which is more fact finding than prescriptive.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And again, request of what already exists. Okay. Comments? Tom? Out.
To one related to the last comment.
Can you talk a little louder, because it doesn't.
Yeah, sorry, Mike. One would be, I just trying to understand the goal, because I'm a little confused. Unlike the parks where I understand why, the encroaching commercialism causes a problem, I'm a little confused why using more of this open space is a problem. Because wouldn't the goal be to use this space as much as possible? Idea is we shut down traffic. This is open space that when it's far less usage in cold weather. What we're trying to do is create third space within the area, like, it's a positive, this is growing. Cause that's less traffic area, cause the idea is we don't want cars running, like. How do we go and create a use, which really at the end of the day forces people to use public transportation into the area and not use cars? I would think the expansion growth. The more they use of Broadway, the better this is, would be instead of a negative. And the second would be, since we can't define the metrics we want now, would urban space, instead of the real resolution, can we ask for a lessons learned afterward, where you can go over things that you found, issues, maybe like traffic and stuff like that? Cause we can't, and that way we can use that as a framing exercise for next year, say what metrics we want. Instead of, like this year, we focus so much on the fire, obviously, but maybe an overall lessons learned and coming in kind of, I know it's retroactive, but it's also proactive to look at things to improve for next year. Would that be something that would make sense for everyone?
Zach, is that something you think that you might be able to check back in with us about too?
Yeah, I can certainly talk to folks here.
Okay,
And from an urban space standpoint, we're happy to do that.
great, thank you. We appreciate how much time you've spent with us in this last year, truly. Do people feel amenable to including that particular item? And then I'm gonna go to John Harris, but I want to stick with the one stipulation first, those two things, the first, the checking in. People feel good about that, lessons learned, okay. And then, are people amenable to a whereas that speaks in some way to the committee supporting the pedestrianization of these blocks and outdoor activity during the season? Is that something that, how would people feel about the inclusion of that? Supportive?
What does that mean? So,
Julia, since you were writing the resolution, do you want to give that a little bit of language shape?
Yeah, I feel like that and maybe I'm interpreting this wrong, but I feel like that's a bit in conflict with our crowding concerns, right?
I think there might be a way to include both of it, where
Okay.
we both want
you-
want the space to be open.
Yeah,
We also want to know how the crowd flow is flowing and if there are any bottlenecks.
yeah.
But in general, we support this type of use of space.
Yeah.
I think that, I think that is, and our esteemed colleague, would that be amenable or get at some of the question?
Yeah.
In a reaching a consensus point on it? I think
Yeah.
that we can do both.
Yeah.
It's not an either or. We can do hard things. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because you are writing it. I want to make sure that you've got the language. Okay. It sounds like we've got consensus on that. John Harris.
I'd like for the chair to consider, going to the actual matrix that we have for parks. For two reasons. One, we talked about a lot of different things. I'm just curious what number we're gonna end up with. And secondly, it'd be helpful for the new members to go through this exercise. Used to routinely do, but now, which I understand, you do less so.
So we have Julia can take us through that. I got out from our archives, the market matrix, which is a slightly different matrix that just speaks to, I spoke at the beginning of the meeting. It's a slightly different set of considerations that's just slightly adapted. But we can also run through that too. If you want to run us through that. I think,
Yeah, just like at a very high level, and this is me doing it as a new member, right? But in terms of the market matrix, out of a 5, this application scored about a 3.3.
Do you want to run us through each topic, each category? It's
Yeah.
a way to help us
Yeah,
focus
going
and think
through
about the trade-off.
In terms of footprint, the proposed score was a 3 out of 5. In terms of visual aesthetic, another 3 out of 5. In terms of impact on public use, that was a 2. Sanitation and sustainability, at first was a 4, but I believe after hearing some of the stuff from today's presentation, I'd bump that down a bit further. To maybe a 3 or a 2, 2.5, 2, yeah. Uniqueness, I think the carousel, like the first 2-tiered carousel, that's pretty awesome. So I think that could be a 4 or 5. And then again, the public benefit and amenity, the bid revenue, the community access, highlighting local vendors, all of that, I think would give it a 4 or 5. So it like really in each area, this application is performing rather well. I think we just have overall concerns about SOPs, mitigation plans, and I think we've voiced all of that. We can continue to do so with the resolution clauses.
Yeah, I think it also, running through that also is a way to also highlight that we
Right.
can both be concerned about the
Yeah.
the use of space of the crowding and making sure the crowd can flow, but also we also support it as a use of public space and interactiveness.
The numbers sound better than the comments.
Yeah. This is a helpful exercise.
It's a very helpful exercise. Michael
Can
Kavak.
I just make one more comment, in terms of visualizing Broadway between Times Square and Herald Square and below Herald Square down to Greeley Square? We'll all remember that at Times Square, there's no traffic that comes south on Broadway past 42nd Street because there's a barrier. So there's no traffic that comes onto Broadway. And closer to Herald Square and Greeley Square and the block north of Herald Square, that's gonna have there's very little traffic, vehicular traffic there, because there's no reason for cars, you can't go through. You can't get in from the north and you can't leave from the south. So the only people going in there are people with business in that area. There's no through. So it's very, compared to the rest of the city, that particular block, those particular blocks have very few vehicular traffic, which makes it more friendly for the people and for this entire presentation during this great holiday season. So I'm for it.
Okay. Do you folks feel that we have the resolution coming together? Julia, do you want to take us through what stipulations, what the whereases would look like and maybe
Sure.
get towards a motion?
Sure. My motion first.
You can take us through so we can talk
Okay,
about in case
alright.
anyone wants to add
Yeah.
something.
So some of the whereases, we're going to request a lessons learned postmortem with both bid and urban space to understand the learnings from the data collected. And also allow us as a committee to prepare for next year and the similar requests. We are going to, as a committee, voice our general support of the pedestrianization of outdoor blocks and initiatives such as these. As a committee, we are going to ask that 34th Street Partnership strongly encourage all of their vendors to use sustainable, reusable utensils when possible. Language that kind of makes understanding they cannot require, but going as
And
strong.
encourage 34th Street to help with that in the future.
Exactly. And then another whereas, let's see. I think we wanted to make sure that they were in close urban space was constantly in close coordination with the city entities that have issued all of the permits. And also the FDNY specifically regarding fire safety. Those were the main buckets.
And acknowledge the great measures on the fire safety.
Yes, acknowledge the tremendous effort to change the material, all the research, the staff, full-time staff hired, and the plans to kind of assess the situation daily. So we appreciate that.
Do we want to include something about the openness of the booths too and the signage and like the
Yeah, I
street
think-
signage and then the flow of the
Yeah.
people, because they've made that as a change too, and that's also in our matrix.
Yeah, and I personally, I don't know how the rest of the board feels, but I appreciate the cohesive branding. I like the holiday market feel. It feels like a nice, European holiday market with all of the not wood and the covering, and the your house.
And then
all
do you
that.
want to speak to the carousel too, and then the crowding around the carousel?
Yes, and I think in addition to all of the SOPs and plans that we'll mention in specific, whereas I think we're very interested to understand the queuing setup and situation for the carousel and the crowd control plan surrounding that, since it has almost 100 people, a capacity for 100. We just want to make sure that folks are really preparing for the bottleneck that could potentially cause.
And the uniqueness and joy.
Yes, and we love it, and it's great.
Catherine.
Yeah, I just wanted to, I'm sorry, I just wanted to add, it was presented and should be added that the queuing doesn't interfere with the bike lanes, that there's 10 feet and delineators. And people who ride bikes want to know that
Whether it's gonna be
information, and so it should be included. And then, there was another interfere, that it doesn't interfere with the parade, the timing, and that it's been sensitive to timing.
The logistics are very complicated for how they're setting.
But it also,
Yeah.
so on the front end, it's the parade, and on the back end, it's New Year's Eve, so.
Yes.
Both of those are really sensitive times to like how things flow and change, so if you could just add that,
Yeah,
that was
okay.
my only.
EJ, did you have anything you wanted to add? Everyone feel good about how this is shaping up? Restrooms, would you like to include something about the restrooms?
Yes, but there are 30 vendors serving food and beverage, and there are no additional restroom provided.
And that we encourage.
Use stronger language than we encourage.
Urge.
Strongly urge or demand.
Yeah.
That 34th Street and or vendor look into ways to provide additional, whether this year, but definitely in the
And
future.
just,
Just wait to be recognized by the chair. Catherine.
Yeah.
Thank you.
and just so we're, being consistent, just like the generator and power issue, that this not be a temporary, that we could build more infrastructure in the pedestrian plazas along this corridor that would serve the traffic flow all year, that it could, we could have,
Right.
we need more bathrooms there, period, not just for the holiday market. And the holiday market, people are not sitting down and eating. But there just should be more bathrooms in this particular area for public use, and there are creative ways, and we should use infrastructure to think about creative ways to build public bathrooms. And we should say that, we should start that conversation, understanding that there's no more bathrooms, but there's more food and there's more vendors.
30 more.
I mean,
Exactly.
yeah, I think we want to make sure the whereases go as much to the specific.
Yeah.
lighting.
Is it, right, but it's
We can say as
That's
it's a limited bathroom area to begin with. We
Right.
appreciate that they've done more. We
That
want them to
needs
do more in the
to be
future.
that needs infrastructure.
Temporary options would be
Correct.
wonderful. We strongly urge the Dyer, especially with the
Like,
additional.
why would I wanna put
30.
I don't wanna put, at the same time, the balance to this is like, if I still have the floor.
Yeah.
I see it as challenging to burden temporary vendors with a larger public concern. There's some balance here to that. And believe
that's
me,
also-
bathroom is, something that as women, children, elderly, people wanna have access to public bathrooms. And so, I don't wanna, but I don't think the burden solely belongs in this
Yeah.
space. It's a temporary holiday-ish. There's plenty of places to go to the bathroom in the area if you gotta go. But the market itself should have some
Additional.
bathrooms,
Okay,
but
so
there's
we
some
can
balance.
also
to it.
say to maybe
Yeah.
put that onto 34th Street and whatever vendor.
Mhm.
Okay,
Yeah.
Michael K-back.
Does,
I want to start to wrap us up.
does anybody else remember where there are two existing bathrooms in that bow tie area? I don't,
I know the
I mean, I'm
one.
there pretty often. I can't remember one
They're
bathroom.
not open.
I think that they are just, I think,
They're opening for the.
There's one on 34th,
One in
36th
Main
Street. There's but I never saw anybody go in a bathroom.
Libby, do you want me to clarify? Can I?
Zach, that would be amazing. I would
Sure.
love it. Zach, put
Sure.
your camera back on.
No, of course. There are two bathrooms now. The Herald Square bathroom opened, I believe, last year. It had been closed for a long time, before I started working here, so I'm not sure when it closed. But when I started, it was being used as a closet, a maintenance closet. So anyway, the Herald Square bathroom is
Where is the Herald Square bathroom?
it's a permanent kiosk, or building. It's at the north end of Herald Square Park. So there's two buildings there. There's the Waffles and Dingus kiosk, and next to that is the bathroom.
The one with the moon on the door? Where the loudspeaker is for the bell ringers?
It's just north of the Bell Ringers building. They're all sort of in a triangle
So
together.
okay, so there is a building there. It's the building with a brass door. On the door, there's a moon, which was the logo of the Herald Tribune, the Herald newspaper.
I think it works.
That room has been converted into a bathroom.
Not the building below the statues, but just across the walkway there, closer to 35th Street.
And Zach, would it be possible to add some signage, on the like information kiosk of like where the bathrooms are to that map that you already have?
I believe that it's in there, but I can double check.
Great, thank you so much.
And then, and just to say, Greeley, the bathroom is the same, but it's just the opposite layout. So it's closer to the south end of the plaza there, where there's another kiosk and then the bathroom there.
Okay.
Sure.
All right, so members of the committee. How are we feeling about those stipulations? Hours of operation, carousel uniqueness, we got all of it in there, sustainability.
I'm excited about this new presentation for the holiday season. I think it's gonna be a great time for one and all. And I wish them good luck running.
Okay, do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
That's in.
Okay,
Taking it to a vote.
great.
Julia,
Yes.
Catherine,
Yes.
John,
Yeah.
Libby,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Gail,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Todd,
Yes.
BJ.
Yes.
I am a yes. Andy,
Yes.
all right, moving on.
Okay, motion passes. Evan, Lauren, Zach, thank you so much. We really, I think Elvin has already left, but thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate that. And for presenting to us, slightly differently than what you maybe anticipated. But we wish you good luck and look forward to checking in about, lessons learned and visiting this carousel. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you.
Thanks for having us all.
Thank you.
Okay, so our second item of the evening is a discussion of our district needs statement and our budget requests. I circulated that to everyone, what last year's statement was, and then also the agency responses to that statement. So our budget task force is set up a little bit differently. Last year it went through a committee, but now it's going through a task force. Kim McCall, who is not here tonight, but is leading that task force, but Catherine Ellington is our very own member who's also on it. So the goal of this is to speak to what we would like to see in the district. It's focused on agencies and priorities. A lot of what we've discussed this year, you just sort of resubmit. But a little bit more detail. I think Catherine can share a little bit more of what they're hoping to hear from us to expand on what we've done previously. If anyone wants to include things like additional locations for street trees, perhaps, I have a feeling that some people might be very excited about that. So Catherine, if you wanted to say a little bit more about what you get to hear from.
Doing just fine. I mean, I don't think there's anything right. I think two things. First up, I would say that, right, it's a little different this year that we're our own task force trying to really deepen the cross connections between the committees to bring forth the needs of the district. Number two is Brad sent us a survey. Please respond to the survey. So that's another way. So we're looking for as many inputs as we can. And just some of the granular work that we've been doing as a committee to look at the changing landscape of, for example, the question about generators and power. How do we get to solar power for what kind of imaginative, innovative ways can we support all that goes on within the parks, within the pedestrian plazas? We had a wonderful, we've been doing some of this in a granular way, but if there's something you can speak to from your neighborhood, I always say every neighborhood has its own vibe, every block has its own situation, but we'd be surprised how common needs are arising. And so whether we're talking about bathrooms, whether we're talking about trees, sometimes just bringing the language to the table, the vision to the table, allows it maybe not to go through the budget needs, but maybe it gets solved another way. So please, I think I've been talking, I had set in on the district needs with DEP meetings, and they talked about noise cameras, which I had no idea they had launched. So I think there's not very many of them, but the question is, would noise cameras be helpful in some, like, for instance, I'm just gonna say, for example, even though they didn't call us, 20th Street could probably use some noise cameras because they seem to have some real issues with nighttime life moving through their block, and would even, I don't know if these cameras can be moved around, but those are some of the examples. So please just throw out, you can send it to Libby, you can send it to me, however you all want to do it. We just want to be making sure we're doing the deep dive of listening.
Yeah, I think sending any additional, in addition to what we discussed here, I think sending, just on an admin note, sending everything to me, Myrnal, Catherine, and Kim would be the best way to handle all of that. And then it's all gonna go through the budget, but we wanna make sure that we're all on the same page. So we plan to include basically everything from last year that didn't get funded this year. So some of that is that capital request for Union Square, for the plumbing underground. That it's money that had previously been allocated but needs to be reallocated. It's a really major undertaking. And PEPS officers, I think Michael Greeley might be the one who's speaking to most of the parks and bids about needs. But it is, again, more expansive with some of these other agencies. But I know Madison Square Park is trying to get snow removal equipment. And I'm not sure what all of their additional needs are. If we have anyone lurking who might have additional comments there. But yeah, so if there are specifics from the statement that you want to add additional things to, Michael.
So I'm a little confused, a lot of confused on this point, because I got an email from Bradley today asking me to fill out something. I got an email from Kimberly yesterday, and now I'm getting a request from you. Do I have to do it 3 times?
The survey is really important. Definitely do the survey.
Needs
Yes.
3 times?
Well, we're
So-
having the conversation as much as we possibly can.
So the same items that I sent to Kimberly, his is too difficult. I'm not doing that, but I should send it to you.
No, you sent it to Kim, that's great, but if you wanted to share what you sent with us right now, so the committee could all hear,
Yeah,
that would be great.
I'm like John, been a member of this community board for a couple of years already. It's the same thing every year. It's homelessness, and it's bathrooms, and it's bicycles, and it's sheds. There's 15 things. My memory, I'm lucky to
So
get
we
a
wanna,
third.
so if there's stuff that you wanted to add for parks specifically, or open space, or environmental things, so like light and water.
But
if
these
you're
are
walking
lower
and
on
flooding.
they want them by priority, what you think is the most important.
Well,
So-
Sorry.
to the chair,
Yeah.
3 most important.
They go through the 3 most important for the whole district on any topic, but what also happens is that the needs of each committee, so for us, that's all environmental things of all types. Also all park requests, And then open space requests, so like plazas, seating, additional, you know, officers to go around. You ask the agencies for stuff in order of priority, you can't be as specific. It's helpful to both be very specific for certain types of requests, so the location for street trees, being very specific with exactly where you want one is very helpful, and having additional community groups support that, but being a little bit more broad for agency, additional funding for PEPS officers. So for our PEPS officers request, we'll say, we want more funding for PEPS officers, Parks Department, give us more funding, and then we'll say that it's supported by Union Square Partnership. And then that's how they will but then they assess where that additional funding and programming goes. But it is more effective if it goes to an existing program, just for that sort of breakdown. Yeah.
In terms of how things are quantified, certain parks give us an exact number, it sounds like, hey, we need snow removal equipment, that's this number. But if it's something that we're proposing, or like something where we're trying to figure out this power situation, is that something where we need to do the research and quantify it, or like how do we go about that?
So it's a little bit of both. The more specific, a lot of the district needs statements do end up coming down in some ways that are frustrating, but some ways that are also good, where it's money for a study. So a study for a feasibility study of what would it take to fully electrify, so that vendors or any pop-ups can be not reliant on generators and have it be the infrastructure that everyone can use the electricity in 34th Street, like in the bid. And sort of how much money for that study to then figure out how much additional money would need to go into the infrastructure.
Okay.
So it depends a little bit on the ask. Sometimes they will come back to us in the next year, so in 27, and say, great, we can help your request, granted, remove it, or they'll say, we support this, we cannot do this for you now, submit it again. A lot of this is try again next time. But we keep asking, and eventually there can be more, and sometimes they do ask for the specific resolution from us to help them in their advocacy for the thing. So then that'll be something to then follow up with too. Todd.
Hi, hope everybody can hear me. I just want to second what Catherine says. I also serve in that task force. A couple of comments. You saw the questionnaire, the online questionnaire that went around. Please fill that out. One of the limitations of that survey is that it does have a text field or a memo field where you can put in additional questions. But really, as far as I can see, only one at a time. Now, that I assume is going to go around to much of the board. I specifically requested when we had this discussed at the committee that we go out of our way to all of our community board members to contribute their own specific granular ideas. I remember when I was working on the open restaurants project and the concerns, I did something similar, and everybody contributed, and that made its way into the final report. My own contribution, I don't know that this is something that's in the carryover from past years, is the recent proliferation of graffiti, in our subways. That's technically not a park, I know, but a lot of the pocket parks and the POPs and other parks that are not so lavishly funded by conservancies and are left to the tender mercies of the Parks Department, it takes them forever to get around to clearing off the graffiti. So I make my way around a lot of the district, and it's alarming to me, how bad, what a problem that has become. So me personally, I would suggest that the Parks Department, if they're responsible for some of the smaller, less used parks, that they allocate money for additional staff to clean it and make sure that stuff doesn't stick around. Those of you who've been in the city for many years may recall that the assault of graffiti on our subways, our parks, and in other places just led to a feeling of disorder in our city. And it's hard on me, since we got rid of it, to see that it's coming back, right? So all of us, especially those of us on the Parks Committee, let's come up, look, all of us, we know the parks and the public spaces better than anybody. It's not good enough for us to just go with what we had in past years. Let's put our heads together and come up with some really creative ideas on what we can do to improve and solve problems in our parks.
Thank you, Todd. I very much second that, encouragement to get creative and get our open spaces more money and more stuff and advocate to being outside, and plants and trees and everything should be parked. But if anyone has any specific things that they thinking about now, Tom?
Our district is by far the worst resource for young children.
Yep.
It's embarrassing, the resource. There are only 2 active playgrounds. That's not only parks, DOE, in the entire district. One of which needs repairs, and it was part of last year's request, one in Union Square.
They still need, I believe they still need the surface on the ground, but the fencing did get money. for the
Correct,
surface.
there's still, they only did more yet. So we have, and then there's only one 3 to K program in the entire district out of the 1,000 in the city. There is no open fields, places to play within the district, which makes sense, it is Midtown Manhattan. But, the argument could be made that we only have 50,000 residents, but we just passed, the MSMX, which is hoping to bring in another 25,000 people, and the goal is to make, we're having an election where people are speaking about affordable New York families. Our district, there is an argument that our district's not affordable, but there should be some thought into at least having a chance raising a child in the district. Like, I'm fortunate, so, I have some resources to kind of take care of that, but I would not imagine an average New Yorker living in our district having the ability to raise a child. I think it's possible.
Okay, so
And I think that's something that I would like to source, we're talking about open space, but focus towards children, focus to the ability of doing something for that, just because, I think it's important to have the ability to have people kind of raise up, you have people that are on our board that are, native New Yorkers that got to grow up here. And I think that is dying, especially within the Manhattan space.
I'm hearing maybe playground funding or types of requests for that too, just from a parks request.
Programming, like open space programming.
Like capital programming.
Yes, like, some of the open space stuff where, because like Bryant Park does this, I always want to, a positive, I would say, is like Bryant Park, while they don't have a playground, does have programming for young children, right? Like, you can go to the park and they have actively invested in that park. And obviously, Madison does, but maybe some of the other open space partnerships might look to do more investment.
Some of the
with that.
bids, you think? Okay.
It's really just Madison and Bryant that are doing, like, I might be wrong, there might be a third, but like. Even
Maybe
Times
Department of
Square.
Education with the opening up of schools for like school years, but if there isn't physical
There's-
structure and they
well,
did,
yeah,
there isn't
right,
anything to
yeah.
open up, so. But finding some of that, okay. I think that there's support for that. I think it also falls under our bucket in sort of the district needs statement of the library funding and that stuff tends to fall under us too, even though it's not us, it's technically Bex. That ends up sneaking in because they were the ones running the committee and they got to pick the
I would
priority.
say the library's decent, but I would say the library, like, I wouldn't push for the libraries, but I would say outside of the bids, there's nothing in our district. Like, not a lot. Well, it's because we don't have the fields and the playground, it's kind of
There isn't as much open just
Correct.
fields to run and
correct.
it's not like
So-
we're a bit landlocked.
Yeah.
With being the heart of Midtown Manhattan, which we pride ourselves on. But perhaps trying to ask for some more of that too and working with our partnerships. But all right, so hearing that, any other requests, if no one has a dying, burning specific need, some of the specifics of tree stuff, we can also get into for locations. Again, if it's supported by different community groups and neighborhoods, that can be helpful. but DP requests, and please fill out that survey as far as priorities, but as far as priorities for parks, I think some of the big ones that we've had for the plumbing for Union Square and like PEPS officers that we're hearing throughout is some of that. And then the stuff that we've got for Madison Square Park, I just know the snow removal. And there's a thing about figuring out whether or not it's a capital request that they can actually meet because it's a vehicle versus something that lives there as infrastructure overnight. That's like part of the park. That makes sense. But okay, send to
I just am asking you a question to clarify. Are you talking about
the snow removal. So in last year's budget request, when they asked for snow removal, it's a John Deere vehicle, specific type of vehicle. But
It's
they were
not a
not-
capital request?
they were trying to make it a capital request, but the agencies were trying to figure out if that was possible, because it's not like a lamp. It's that goes to it's not a street lamp, or a, an outlet.
And it's just because this was a
Offense.
last year request, is there a cross section between the sanitation request? Does parks want to have their own equipment? Or do they want to use the equipment that sanitation already has? And do they need a budget for that?
Good question. This is money that we're asking the Parks Department to get for capital improvements for the Conservancy in this case.
Okay.
Because the Conservancy doesn't fund. It works a little bit reverse of other conservancies where in New York at large, where the capital requests usually come from the city and the programming then comes from the Conservancy. So it's a little bit flipped, but so they're trying to make sure that that's something that they can do, but they said to submit again. So if anyone has any additional thoughts, you all have all that information, definitely do that survey. Some of those big ticket items are part of it. For Union Square, we've gotten that request a lot and they had the money and then it left. And the thought on that is that if they have the flagship money for this sort of plumbing infrastructure project, that it'll help with some of the study that's happening that I hope we will see more of, which is a little bit of a segue. So please send all of these additional requests. Do the survey, please, everybody. Do the survey, send requests to Kim, Catherine, and then CC me and Myrnal. And let's get our open spaces more parks. Yeah.
One last question,
Yeah.
sorry. I think the street trees are gonna be like, everyone's gonna want street trees that we all live all over, so is there a benefit to having like some sort of shared document where everyone puts in where they have specific requests, and then we can sort of figure out like where we need to go from there, so do we need to go to different block associations for support, or like how we want to.
Yeah, 'cause it's gonna be, that's the other thing too, is like some of it is just like, some organizations don't, there's places where it wouldn't, right? Like you're saying like Broadway, parts of Broadway don't have like a bid. I mean, parts of certain streets won't have a bid, where some do, so it comes like, do we hope the bids do it? Because like, my bid maintains.
We can ask for as many things as we want. I
Yeah.
want to also put that out there. as we
Also
can
with
ask for
street
all of the
trees in
things.
particular, I can call and request a street
Yes,
tree.
you can also do that personally, but it is helpful. It is helpful. It is helpful to do more.
Me and my dogs are happy with the numbers, so please, more for other people. We got a good amount where I live.
Okay, but yeah, I think that if you just send all of those requests in. Yeah, I think if you send those requests in, because the budget committee has also been working with the different neighborhood associations, block associations, and bids for specific requests. There's like a 30th Street request in there. But some of that, if it can be better coordinated, but also if you have specific ones, just send all of them. And everyone else should too. And that is a little bit of our segue into our environmental projects. I wanted us to maybe think about starting to sign up for, commit to different topics that folks want to address. Yeah.
You moved so quickly. The other thing that I think this committee should, from our perspective, talk about in terms of district needs is homelessness and the need for more street teams that cover pedestrian areas, parks. Because although they don't say it, some of the challenges with developing solid public programming have to do with and bathrooms, quite frankly, have to do with unmet needs of the homeless population. And so to find ways to continue to talk about this on multiple levels, I think someone just asked, you know, it takes a few conversations with a few different lenses to see something sometimes. And so I just want us to be sensitive to what happens in park spaces with homelessness and pedestrian plazas with homelessness.
And also with POPs too, that's also one of the
There's
reasons
POPs,
with, well,
yeah.
no, but
And
no, it's an
POPs, yeah.
additional, just an additional
Yeah.
space where sometimes it can be hard to
Yeah.
comply with some of it or encourage hostile architecture in a different way.
Park benches.
Tom,
So to follow up on that,
please direct your comments to the
yeah,
chair.
to follow up, on top of me before, I think one of the things, and kind of towards the policing, is kind of more of a return to community policing. It's kind of the idea of kind of people walking, wait. There used to be, and I don't know if it was a response to 9/11, I'm trying to remember, but there used to be more community policing, which is kind of like police would kind of have an area, there'd be more engagement with the public, especially around the parks areas. It helped with the homeless. Like I remember back when I first moved out of campus and stuff like that, there were cops that are kind of dealing with the neighborhood that understood the homeless. So it was when they were, it was like almost a friendly face, and it was more of a, A, you knew someone around that could kind of like deal with the situation, but B, they also were more familiar. And there are also more community, I know this sounds weird, but like, it feels like there's almost no community social services anymore. What used to be, there were teams kind of, and at first I thought I was like imagining it, but I really look back, but there used to be more kind of like with that community policing, community social services. And I don't know when it kind of centralized into a call section, but you don't see them anymore.
So can I respond?
Yes, thank you for that.
Yeah.
I just wanna, yes,
Go
so
back and forth, but I do want to, I appreciate what's already been said. I just want to, make you aware, I do see teams, I see like Project Renewal, I see DHS teams, and I do see, and so maybe some more collaborative efforts. I also want to remind us all that if you see, so, you know, there's the folks that you know on the street, and then there's the folks that you see doing things, behaviors that really are red flags. And when you see that, if you report it to 311, they're really responsive about, and that, you know, we want to see more of that. They're really, like, if you report a 311 at the corner of X, they respond quickly to try to see if they can find that person. So we want to see more of that.
additional funding for social services is what I'm hearing, because it helps enhance public
Homelessness,
spaces.
right.
It also helps enhance
Right.
public spaces and engagement. We're just trying to keep the conversation, because this is the committee
Frame it,
version of it,
yeah.
to frame it as just parts, but also send in your other.
That is interagency was my point. That
Yeah,
is police, it's DHS, it's homeless services. It's and it's also the nonprofits, you know, there are a lot of nonprofits in this
They
area.
each have a different sections and stuff too. So we can ask for, we're definitely gonna ask for more money. I know that Siebel will, but we can also say that from the parks perspective, we can include that too.
Right, from the parks.
Yeah, from the parks perspective,
Got it,
this would also enhance the outdoor space. Okay, Tom. We're just trying to focus on requests, just any additional things that you would like to add to district needs. Otherwise, I wanna kind of keep us on time here, like at 8:15.
Yeah, just a quick question.
Yeah.
It's, cause I did the question, so
Thank you.
I know, yeah. So it was just seemed like a little bit different, so I'm just trying to understand. So it's public spaces, outdoor spaces, funding to bids. I know I made the comment to policing, but it was a kind of a thing. And then libraries, is there anything else that like,
Any agency that we can request money from that provides a service, we can request money from. And then, so it's for programming, like general budget needs, and then also capital improvement requests. So that would be if this snow removal truck is approved as a capital request, or it's probably a larger undertaking. We would have to do a little bit more of like a meeting and have someone come present, which we can get to with our environmental stuff next on our agenda, to then electrify different plazas so that we don't need a diesel generator, but it would be possible to power different activations or activities in that park, or plaza without the need for a generator. That type of capital request versus please send us more PEPS officers do patrol. So it's more like sort of an annual budget item versus something that's infrastructure related.
I got you.
Does that make sense?
That's why.
Yeah. And then we rank them differently. They're separately ranked. But the needs over all of the district is like a slightly separate thing that gets broken down into the line items of give us the stuff. That makes sense. All right, so moving on to projects, public space projects, environment. Does anyone have something that they are super excited to sign up for? We talked a little bit about this at orientation. Thank you all to everyone who came. We've got some topics. I know John Klein is going to be working on some stuff for POPs inventory that I hope more people will get involved with, but he's helping on the building out the infrastructure for that. He could not be here tonight, but I am super excited about it. And I encourage everyone to do that so we get a better sense of all these other areas that exist. Maybe some environmental things are possible around that. We talked about maybe having a little bit of a research group if people didn't have anything specific in mind, just to again, what's helpful for our district needs statement in general is being able to go to facts and figures of why certain things matter or what exists in the district now and why we need more to make our place stronger. But if we have a group that maybe researches why public space is good and why being around trees and plants is good from a health, mental health, physical health, environmental, climate change perspective, people could sign up for that one. I'm happy to sign up to some research. Okay. Great. I love that. But really this is a choose your own adventure. So I will make the announcement that we think tentative TBD. It's not fully announced yet. But the environmental justice folks from the mayor's office are going to come to present a little bit on what they're doing at our next meeting on December 1st. Really excited about to get a little bit of a sense of it's a new area for us and what projects they're working on and then how we can partner and sort of what to focus on too. So that might give folks a little bit more of a direction. But I know sound pollution was something folks were thinking about, or light pollution, maybe street trees. I know permeable pavement is something that we could maybe do some research on. And sort of how to set some of that up so that we're getting information about what technology is out there. And then maybe we can go from there to advocate or what projects are happening. I'd be happy to do that. Okay, yeah. Permeable
It's like
pavement.
a town. Yeah, I mean, maybe just like, stormwater management in general, so there's a lot beyond even permeable pavement and just like the cloudbursts that are showing up a lot of places. I don't think we have any in our district.
We don't.
That could be a big.
I think that's a very, very big topic.
Oh, we have in the district?
We don't have any of the cloudburst. There's a program about cloudburst technology to deal with the pop-up thunderstorms or just like storm events that come that rain a whole lot and then it floods. We don't have any programs to mitigate that.
It's like spaces that are meant to be flooded.
Direct.
Spaces that are meant to be flooded, so they'll design like a basketball court that's meant to hold all the water when there is a big storm, so it's kind of integrated into the system, but I don't think.
I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. Tom,
I think part of that's because we actually,
direct comments, sure.
I think part of that's because we actually the only district in Manhattan that has elevation.
Yes, so part of how the storm stuff is sort of interesting how we affect it. And I hope that environmental folks will speak to this a little bit with the sewer system and stormwater runoff. But if someone wants to take on maybe some of this conversation too, with CSOs and the combined sewer overflow with the way the system works, even though we are not immediately at risk of flooding because we're landlocked. If we can better manage our water, it helps the areas that are getting it from both sides. So that if we can manage our flooding from a green infrastructure or improving the various spaces that we do have, we can help slow some of that and then help slow some of that sewer runoff. But so there's a lot to do with stormwater maintenance. Yeah, Mike.
So in line with that would be, I remember walking up 16 flights during the blackout. Do we have a plan for an emergency, how blackouts. If we have for water, why not blackouts? We had more blackouts than we had, October, was it 12th? The, Sandy,
Oh, yeah.
right? We had more of them.
I think that might be able to go under storm preparedness. I'll check with the office to see if that actually falls within us or if it might fall within a different committee,
Natural disasters, that.
potentially.
That's the
Yeah.
reminder about terrorism. I don't know, we don't hear
There you
it spread far into these days
Yeah,
anymore.
we're not, again, we're trees, plants, natural,
Okay.
species.
Parks could also be.
Everything.
threatened. Yeah, parks
I-
are threatened, like
Well,
terrorism, environmental.
Yeah, why?
terrorism.
John Harris.
Well, two questions. First of all, going back, we mentioned about our environmental justice.
A little louder,
So,
environmental justice.
There's an environmental, so at the next meeting, I'm gonna get the name of the exact office wrong, but it's in,
Question about it.
okay.
Is this a permanent group or is this a group? It's established by, a mayor. So, because where I'm headed on this is, depending on your answer, I might suggest a different timing of this discussion. So I just want to know what sort of, is this a organization, an agency that's established by the city? Or is this more a working group or something?
It's more established.
You sure?
I'm pretty sure because the programs that fall under that office are like
So it exists,
long-term.
so it exists
long-term
no matter
program.
who's in office.
I think that it can get rearranged because it evolved out of other agencies, but they will be able to speak to current programs that are longer term infrastructure projects. And that's sort of like the baseline of what the goal is, to figure out what our what's our current, what's our snapshot right now of
Right.
our district and what affects us. And so going to an agency versus an outside group and one of the advocacy groups that also can provide that information. And that can go a little bit beyond what the Vital Parks presentation was last year, because it's both, we care about parks, we also care about the open space piece. So we're trying to go a little bit broader. But they will be able to provide us, we hope, with like more information on sort of that snapshot, but we're still developing that. But any other agency you think should come to present on specific projects?
Well, no,
You can
well, yeah,
also-
but where I was coming from was just the timing. There's an election happening.
Yeah.
And it could be a completely different agenda than mine, so but I'll leave that to you. My other question, or statement is, your reaction to, environmental issues related to, terrorism and other acts of that nature. I think that clearly, in my mind, I like to see the argument why that shouldn't fall in the environment. Especially as someone who had a front seat on 9/11, I can tell you there were a lot of environmental issues on that day, and afterwards. But just simple things like, what happens if a building collapses or, radiation, I haven't thought this through, but I'm just asking a broader question, why doesn't that fit with an environmental portfolio? I guess that's my question.
I think the remit, the reason why I answered the way I did.
Yeah.
But we can probably take this back to Brad, the chair, to ask more. Is that as initially envisioned, we took over the environment from the transportation environment. And that's more of like, can you add plants to the side of bike lanes and what's happening in the median strip and air pollution? So like there's an air pollution element to this, which I think would probably fall within sort of the after effects.
Yeah.
From a 9/11 or a building element, but some of the DOB related stuff has remained with land use. But as far as like emergency preparedness, as I heard it, had more to do with sort of like threat readiness and sort of agency response from like a security standpoint, which is not our committee, I think.
What committee would it be?
I think that would probably be more with like city services, and like agencies as opposed to like parks, DOT, like environmental, because we're still like splitting some of that, but sort of the outdoor part. But I mean, I'm happy to bring that to Brad and
No,
like,
just
in a
curious.
conversation. But that's sort of, I mean, I do think that environmental, sort of like air pollution and things that would happen from an air pollution or an air threat would probably fall under it, but I think
Yeah,
that,
it's a huge element of.
yeah,
Of that.
I think that would fall into it, but other stuff would.
Building collapsing of all the dust or 9/11.
Yeah,
that was a
I
major
think
risk.
that stuff, does fall into it, but like NYPD preparedness would not fall into it as much with the environmental effects. Julia?
My question is, and I don't know what this means, but don't a lot of entities direct folks in cases of emergencies or like instances of terrorism or fires to go to a lot of public spaces and parks to congregate? So like in that lane, I feel like there is a bit of a remit.
Yeah, I have a feeling
That
we have
could, okay. I can,
My building, Toucan Vernado, like we are instructed by fire safety people who come in and they say, all right, your meeting space is down at Madison Square Park, or you guys meet at the North Point. And so I'm sure many other buildings do that.
Also do
across
that.
the
Okay.
District. So
I'm
just
happy.
seeing, like,
Yeah, no,
find
that's a great,
connection.
I hadn't thought of that,
Yeah.
that through line, but that's definitely a great connection. Happy to bring that to Brad and see if that is something that people want to take up and plan around. And prioritize. Happy to, again, choose your own adventure. I will make sure that the chair, we all serve at the chair's direction here. So, that is something that Brad would have to sort of bless, but I think that there's definitely room within that if you wanted to take up some of that stuff. I know that environment is like really an area of like special interest to you too. So I don't know if there's other projects or that you might want to
Yeah, there might
take
be
on
stuff
for
that I
research or
think-
coordinating with agencies to have them come.
Something with this whole secure, the air pollution, parks, I'd be interested in that aspect, but we'd have to flesh that out.
Would you wanna consider maybe an air pollution angle, whether that's like sensors for air pollution or where like certain legislation is moving through related
You know,
to it?
Air pollution is, if we take that on as your portfolio, that's gonna be primarily about transportation. At the end of the day, that's gonna be about the buses, basically.
Which they're electrifying.
Cars and congestion pricing and all that. Maybe, but I'm just saying, depending on how you frame. that,
wildfire
you're gonna-
smoke.
You're gonna be pulled into a whole different.
That's why we have a big committee with lots of members on it to do
Yeah.
lots of things, but yeah, okay, but mull it over and we can talk with Brad to see if there's maybe a 9/11 continuation that could happen or an emergency preparedness element. But speaking of air pollution, would anyone want to take on air pollution or light pollution?
Might as well add noise to it.
Noise pollution?
Air, light, and noise.
Well, to be fleshed out within,
It's tough.
Yeah, it's very abstract. I guess I need to get a bit of, feel of what a resolution, what circle.
what would, yeah, so some of this stuff, is sort of to get a snapshot of the environment or public space, sort of needs and questions, and ways that we can kind of investigate more. And then beyond that, some of it'll be about legislation that's currently moving through the council that we can help support, and work with our elected officials to try to get more done on and take an opinion where we take a resolution. And some of it can be also developing some of the questions that you saw tonight, which, one of our very own members, Catherine, made sure, several weeks ago, actually months ago, I think maybe at this point, to make sure that we started thinking about how we want to incorporate more of the environmental questions now that we have like an official environmental remit into some of these activation questions and our normal questionnaires of parades or street plaza events that we start to develop sort of a standard question set that we ask everybody. So we're both fair, consistent, and everyone knows what to expect. But, maybe some studies are working with agencies of what those questions would even look like. But so I wanted to make sure to shout out Catherine for being very proactive on a lot of our environmental stuff, which I appreciate behind the scenes very much. And if anyone has any other ideas they want to sign up for, I think this is a pretty good start. Thank you for all of you who have signed up, but stay on. And then beyond that, I think I will open it up for new business. If there is any member of the public who would like to speak on a topic that was not discussed tonight, please raise your hand and wait to be recognized by the chair. Okay, seeing none, is there anyone in the room who would like to speak on a new topic?
maybe you'd like to hear about the next Garment District tour?
Birthday member, Michael Kavak,
Thank you. On the fourth, which is a Tuesday election day, made it election day, because people say, oh, I'm working, I don't want to come to your tour because I'm working. So I specifically made it on election day for groups like us to be able to go on a day when they're not working. So if you're not working and you want to join a decent tour, you can ask Julia and other people here who took the tour, what they thought about it. You'll see it ain't bad. It's not a bad way to spend a couple of hours, and you get a free flower. I've arranged for the Garment District visit at the factory. So you get a free flower if you join me on Tuesday, the 4th at 10:30 at the Yellow Button.
all right, I
Fun
can confirm.
fact.
Great, yeah, no, Julia.
I just want to say fun fact, which I learned on the tour, there is a building in the Garment District that has a beautiful wall of a lot of the historic moments that took place, and it was curated by Mike.
Oh, amazing,
Mhm.
our very own.
I want to.
Per, at the request of the building.
That's amazing.
They saw that he always went into the building, talked about its history with his tours. They were like, okay, no one knows this place better than you. Can you help us curate this hallway of art?
I'm blushing now, so I'm not gonna.
And he didn't even put it that way. Like he said it very casually. And I'm like, wait, you did this?
Amazing. Our very own. All right. And with that, we are adjourned. Thank you.
Please take some cookies, or else I'm gonna have to take them home, and I got cake and all kinds of crap already at home.
All right, so fill out that survey, think about your environmental stuff, set up time to talk with me and we can dive deep on it. I'll have a request